This is a much, much bigger question. Which are the better coaching models to use, et cetera, et cetera. I've spent many years as a consultant and as a trainer and as an executive coach putting together training programs for executive coaches, internal coaching programs, facilitative management courses. And in the pursuit of that, I've got to review and work with a lot of really amazing coaches. And one of the things about coaching models is that maybe 80% of the models that were created by identified well-known coaches or well-known academics, that most of those people that I observed while they were doing their work didn't use the models that they supposedly developed. Which is the best model? Yeah? Which is the best model for what? Which is the best model under what circumstances? What are you trying to create? What a coaching model does is it gives you an idea about how these conversations of clarification, of development, of resource refinement and change, how they tend to work and what you need to look at within them. So the degree of resolution, the amount of detail that a model contains, all of these things need to be considered. There are a number of popular ones, but I don't want to recommend one for you more than others until we have a little further talk. Let me give you an example, all right? Every coaching model has something about having a conversation of some length with the client about what it is they want. What they want out of the coaching situation and what they want out of their situation, problem, challenge, whatever it is. How you go about doing that, what level of depth you go to, what you're searching for within that conversation makes the difference between what the next step should be. So even though all the models across the board will have something about goal setting, finding out what somebody wants, etc., what the next step is depends on how that stage in the conversation was pursued. Let's talk about what is not represented in most models that's actually some of the most important stuff in terms of the practical level of running a client relationship. One of the things we found, one of our clients 20 years ago gave us enough money to be able to look at every academic model we could find, all of the practical models. We interviewed hundreds of coaches, internal, external, and what we were looking for were patterns. We were looking for what's always there in people who are identified as really great coaches compared with people who are either median or lower quality coaches. And the stuff with the great coaches was very simple. And what was great about it was that it was outside of their theoretical or ideological orientation. So in other words, some of these coaches had a psychodynamic orientation, some of them had kind of mythic consciousness, new age kind of thing going on, and others it would seem more straightforward behaviorist. But some of the things that all of them did who were really excellent, it transcended all of these different ideologies. So one thing, it's almost never in the models, is how you hold, how you view the client who's in front of you. If somebody's had training in psychodynamic counseling, then they will have been talked at about something called unconditional positive regard. But they never tell you how to do it. They never tell you how to have unconditional positive regard. That means without exception, under every circumstance. This is like Jesus. Yes? You have to be the Jesus to your client. No, thank you. Not possible. These universals and these statements of vague, saintly perfection under all circumstances, you can't do. But what the great coaches that we saw did, regardless of what their theory was they would all talk about something like, I had to find something in this person, if they were going to be my client, that I really respected. I had to see something that was extraordinary in them. I had to see something about how they went through their life or performed their work that was exceptional and beyond what other people would do. In other words, they had to find something, see something, or imagine something inside of that client that they could then react to in a very strong way. We called it the glimpse of brilliance. They had to see something in that client that they went, I want to support that. I am willing to be the custodian for that. You see, it's not just a question of somebody's willing to pay you, so you take them on as a client. You don't treat everybody. You have to make sure that you're a good match for them, that your skills and what it is that they're looking for are going to be a good fit. If there's somebody there who has challenges or issues that are beyond your level of accreditation, you have to say no. You have to refer on. Why? It's not fair to take on somebody if you don't have the skill set. It's also not legal to misrepresent your abilities to help someone. You have to have a clear view of yourself as well as the people who would be your clients. And with these great coaches, what they were looking for is what is exceptional in this person. What is it that when I think about that in them, it calls out of me the desire to do my very best work, to bring the A game, as it were. Yeah? In other words, this is about what you bring to the table and how. I always bring my best work. No, you don't. No, you don't. Not unless you prepare, plan, and practice. So what has to happen in order for the very best to be called out in you? The glimpse of brilliance is one of those things. So that's one thing. Another thing that came out from these really, really great coaches, regardless of theoretical orientation, regardless of model, was that at the beginning of each session, and whenever they were negotiating, they would add in an explicit statement that at the end of the session, they were going to review what had been talked about, and they were going to ask for feedback. And then they would say, the feedback that I'm going to ask about is, I want you to tell me about what worked really well, or what caught and held your attention, or made you respond or react in a certain way. And then also, if there's anything that occurred that needs to change for the future. This is at the beginning. Go through the session, do whatever one does in one's sessions, and then in that period of time before the end, reviewing where they've been to, what was covered, what was agreed, what happened, and then asking explicitly for the feedback. You'd be surprised at how many coaches are afraid of asking their clients for direct feedback on how a session went. But the only reason why they have that is because they're afraid that they're not creating value. One of the things asking for feedback does is it ensures that every single time you work with somebody, you are there to create value, and you do everything in your power to do that. So this is for every session, every single session. You introduce at the beginning that you're going to be asking for the feedback at the end, and then you seek out that feedback exactly as you talked about it at the beginning of the session. It gives the client a chance to comment on what's going on, and if there was any problem, to sort it out right then and there. This is how you prevent matters from growing and developing into an end to the coaching relationship, or to problems, if you're within a company. Everything gets sorted out as close to the moment that it arose as possible. But the second thing is, by actively soliciting that feedback every single time, what happens is that the conversation between you and your client becomes much more simple and much more frank. Why? Because there's no blockage. You're willing to receive what the client has to say. The client could say whatever they want. You both will benefit from it. This is also why it's something that was common to the very best executive coaches. Why? Because they're fearless. And in developing that fearlessness and that desire to serve something in another person who is really good, those in themselves are markers for success and for the pursuit of greater and greater service to someone else. It's not so much which model of coaching you have to use. Yeah, it's by adding in what great coaches actually do. This is something. It will make your coaching a hell of a lot better if you concentrate on these things that we're talking about, which are the signs and markers of practice greatness. we've got models. I've developed models. There's a couple of models that I use typically for different purposes with clients and then also with students. I've got one which gives them a path to follow and gives them a kind of go this way, then that way, then that way. The second one is about incorporating all of their life skills, additional models, additional maps and tools within one model. So it's a kind of a model of models that allows them to bring everything with them. It's not which one is best. It's for what purpose. If you found that useful, we've got some more links over here, and there's a link below the description where you can click to get more information. Also, subscribe button.